There we go. I feel like I am Ferris Bueller, and I'm in that garage looking at all the cars, and I just got the keys to the Ferrari, and I'm gonna go ahead and take this thing for a spin. Um, what I'm hoping that y'all get from this live stream, it's Dr. Tiffany and I are co-hosting, and I'll introduce Dr. Tiffany here in just a moment, as soon as I can get the speaker gallery to show me. Boy, there's a lot of people, 137 people in here. It is Dr. Tiffany and I are going to be co-hosting this together. And if you guys are unfamiliar with Dr. Tiffany, she is absolutely amazing. I'll hand the mic over to her, kind of hand the baton over to her here in just a moment to do her introductions. But let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jim Grasser, and I am a professional competitive barbecue cook. And you're like, well, that's not very qualified. And that's why we have Dr. Tiffany, because I'm kind of the court jester, and she is definitely uh she comes with the credentials. But I went to TikTok and started talking about this product, the Feel Great system, a couple of years ago. January actually was 2 years, and I've learned everything that I know from Trent Tueller, and I'm very honored that Trent asked me to host with Dr. Tiffany today. I feel like I leveled up a little bit. Um, what I'm hoping you get away from this is a good understanding of what the Feel Great system is, why it works, um, and we're going to get to some Q&A at the end of it. If you guys have questions, please feel free to ask questions. Um, I would imagine Dr. Tiff and I, we've done a few of these together, just the same. I would imagine it'll be similar flow to what you guys are used to seeing with Trent and his other medical professionals, but today it's going to be a little bit different, and I'm trying to figure out how to get Dr. Tiff up here. Where are you at, Dr. Tiff?
I'm here, Jim.
Where are you? I'm trying to, let's see. Let's see. Pin? Oh, hi, Kristen. Pinned the wrong person. Boy, it's really difficult. Let's see. Let's go replace pin. There she is. There's Dr. Tiff. And
Hey,
add pin. I'll put us side by side. Here we go. I'll figure this out sooner or later. Hey, Dr. Tiff, how are you?
you know what? I am awesome. I am so awesome. I'm so excited to be back on, of course, with one of my best buddies,
I know.
you, Jim. So, how exciting to do this on a Tuesday on a Trent's call. Okay, go us. Go us.
I I'll hold back a little. Let me so I had mentioned I'm Jim Grass. I'm a professional competitive barbecue cook. I was really trying to do too many things at the same time, and I can't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. I was trying to put Dr. Tiff up on screen here. I wanted to introduce myself though as somebody who reversed type 2 diabetes. And I had a 12.2% A1C at my peak, which is just through the roof. My fasting glucose, the day we found out that I was type 2 diabetic, that I had a little bit of a problem, my fasting glucose was 475. And the next thing you know, I'm in the doctor's office. I was spending way too much time with people like Dr. Tiff, though I would love to spend time with Dr. Tiff. But my LDL was 459, which I've had multiple doctors say that was the highest number they'd ever seen. And I actually had a cardiologist tell me not to exercise, and that's reasonably terrifying when the doctor's telling you not to exercise. Um, yeah, and so I started the Feel Great system. I was referred to the system by a close friend of mine, and today it's been just about 2 years. January 4th, I believe, was 2 years. In October, I had an A1C pulled. I was a 4.8%. And I have been completely unmedicated since February of 23. So within 43 days, I was taken off of my type 2 diabetes medications. And in April of 23, I was taken off of my statin medication. And in August, I was off my blood pressure medication. And now all those numbers are in healthy ranges. I'm completely unmedicated. And I'm just like Dr. Tiff screaming from the top of the tallest building, hey, there's something amazing over here. And before I hand off to Dr. Tiff for an invitation, I just wanted to say if you've been invited to this meeting, listen to Dr. Tiff. Listen to her. She's going to tell you why this works. And we're going to have an amazing testimonial and learn. Dr. Tiff, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, great. Well, hello everyone, and welcome everybody that's on the call. I mean, there's so many people. I'm sure there's people that I have not met, but I am a real medical doctor. I just don't play one on social media. I'm board certified in family and lifestyle medicine, and I'm just tired of writing prescriptions. So much so that I walked away from my medical practice to be able to do this full time, to help and coach people on the lifestyle changes using these natural products that are improving their A1Cs. I mean, like Jim, my family members. I'm sure you all have people that have been able to improve their medical conditions, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, sugar. And for those of you that have those issues, that's what we're going to talk about today. So I am so excited. I can go rattling on and on and on, but we got so much to go on. I must just stop right there.
I love this. I love this. And while I love the fact that you're here with us, there's a lot of doctors that are coming over to this side, if you will. Should we call it the dark side? I mean,
Ah,
coming over to the dark side of the, they're leaving. There's a lot of doctors. In fact, I want to ask a real quick question, and I'm just going to ask the people in the audience, if you are a medical professional, would you just type I am? I'm curious how many medical professionals are in here right now. And I might just be setting myself up here for failure, but oh, there's quite a few already, quite a few. Already quite a few. Love this. Love, love, love this. Look at all those people. Guys, that is something special. That is really something. This is a movement. This is a movement, and we're seeing people get healthy and restore hope. That's my favorite part about this, Dr. Tiff, is seeing people restore hope. You know, how many times do people go to the doctor and they're afraid to go to the doctor because, well, they're just going to up my medications or give me another medication or tell me that, you know, you're not doing what you're supposed to do and it's just not getting better. And you get kind of beat down. You start feeling hopeless and helpless. And my favorite part about this
Yeah.
is seeing people's hope become restored. And look at all these medical professionals chiming in. So I love that you're here, Dr. Tiff, but I want everybody here to realize that there's a lot of other people from the
Yeah.
medical community jumping in as well. This is something special. I want to get to Deb. What do you think?
Oh, Deb's our testimony. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Let's get to Deb.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So part of the way that this works is we're going to go through our introductions. Dr. Tiff and I just introduced ourselves. This is who we are. We are real people. And we always like to bring in a testimonial. And today, our testimonial is Deb. And this is going to be clumsy, guys. Just bear with me. I guarantee this is going to be clumsy while I find Deb. There she is. Add pin. Ha! Look at that. Kind of looks like I know what I'm doing. And of course, now I can't find that. Are you yeah, you are. You're unmuted already. Making it easy for me.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Dr. Tiffany.
Deb, I always like to kind of start these testimonials off a little bit differently. How did you come across the system? How
I
did
was
you come across
scrolling.
it? Where were you at with your health when you came across it? And where are you at today?
Of course. So around, I was scrolling on TikTok like all of us, just thinking it's there for entertainment, right? And I came across, one of Amory's videos, do you have headaches? Do you have low testosterone? I'm like, wow, does she take the doctor's chart out of his office? Because she's reading everything about me. It's kind of scary. So, because previously back in March of 2023, I was having headaches that were debilitating. I still had to go to work, live my everyday life. We still had to bring an income. It was just, I was surviving off of 3 or 4 cups of coffee every day, knowing the 2 p.m. crash with the nap was coming. I knew that I had to do something soon with my health because my family history was type 2 diabetes and thyroid problems. So this system, ever since I started it on August 6th of 2023, now my headaches are gone. My nocturnal hypoglycemia is gone. Sorry. My low testosterone is up naturally, and I'm down 75 pounds.
Love it.
I love that. Love that. Love that. You started to get a little bit choked up there, Deb.
Yeah, I was dealing with a lot.
So I've also suffered from migraines since I was just a kid, and I don't know. There's a lot of people who say that they may have had a headache, and I'm not trying to diminish anybody else's experiences, right? But a migraine headache, I was useless. It's the kind of thing where you call in sick to work. You can't concentrate on anything, and just the relief of that. I also have not had any migraine headaches in 2 years, and it's been the most.
Mhm.
It's like having the shackles taken off of my hands.
Yeah.
And 75 pounds down.
Yep.
Um, Absolutely amazing. Um, Dr. Tiffany, why? How does this,
Why? What's happening? What's the problem?
what,
Yes, time for me
why?
to, that's what I need to talk about.
And guys, so I say it's a little bit of a different format than the way that Trent usually hosts this. You'll see it's kind of a similar flow, but Trent's way more polished than me, guys. Let's just be real. What we're gonna do is at the end of it is I want to bring Deb back in here to have anybody ask her any questions about her personal experience as well. And are you okay with that, Deb?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Well, great. I love Deb's story, and you all may not understand me, but I am the cheerleader. Okay, so when I hear stuff like that, I like bring out my pom poms. I'll jump up and down. That is why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I left my practice, not just to sit up here and look at y'all. I am really excited about people coming off their medications, losing this amount of weight after practicing for 20 years. I didn't see any of that. So yeah, that's where my excitement comes from. So let me talk about the problem, right? So when we're dealing with the problem, we're dealing with metabolic health. And 1 in 3 adults are dealing with some sort of metabolic syndrome, and that's a whole spectrum of disorders, but insulin resistance is in the middle. 93% of Americans actually have poor metabolic health, 93%, and that's based upon a tough study done in 2022, meaning only 7% have good metabolic health. And then because this is such a real issue, a medication has been prescribed a lot. The statin medications. If you have diabetes, you immediately get put on a statin. If you have a heart attack, you immediately get put on a statin. As soon as your cholesterol gets out of range, like Jim was talking about, you're immediately put on a statin. But if you look at that, those medications only decreased cardiovascular risk by 1%, 1 out of 100 people. I mean, and it has a whole list of side effects. So is that worth it? But then when you actually get people to make the changes with their lifestyle, you can actually get things to improve by 39%, which is huge. The great thing about the products we like is they amplify what we're doing with our lifestyle and give people tools to make those changes easier. And so metabolic health, like I said, we're dealing with visceral obesity, high blood pressure, insulin resistance right there in the middle, high triglycerides, abnormalities in your LDL, HDL, and then it's a global concern. So 50% of the world is dealing with insulin resistance. So it affects everybody. It doesn't matter how old or young you are, but it can be reversed naturally. Now, one of the big conditions dealing with metabolic health are your type 2 diabetes. And for a while, type 1 diabetes was beating out type 2. But no, type 2 is much more prevalent now. And so you have 30.3 million people in the US, and this is based upon a study for 2022. 1 out of every 10 people have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and 1 out of 4 don't know they have it. Okay, then you have prediabetes. And about 10 years ago, and maybe even less than that, this wasn't even a real diagnosis term. We were saying people were borderline diabetic. But now this is an actual term that can be put in the billing to get reimbursed for from insurances. This is a real thing. 84.1 million people, 1 out of 3 adults have prediabetes, and 9 out of 10 of them don't know they have it, walking around with issues. And then heart disease. I mean, I was actually talking to somebody the other day that said their brother-in-law was just standing there sweating one time and was like, I'm a little tired. And he was going to go lay down, but something told him that, okay, no, this is more than that. They called the ambulance. The man was having a heart attack. So many people are running around with blockages, don't even know what's going on. That's why this is still the #1 killer in the US, and it's rising across the world. So when you look at the global health crisis stats, and this is actually trying to extrapolate out to 2040, I mean, that's how bad things are going to be. The color is talking about how many people are going to have these problems, these types of problems. You have your non-alcoholic fatty liver disease being up to 30%. That's a third of the people walking around with that. And that's a precursor to cirrhosis. Precursor to your liver not working right at all. Okay. So I'm talking about metabolic health. I'm talking about insulin resistance. I notice it kind of feel like it's going over people's heads. So right now in the chat, I want to know if anybody's having any of these types of symptoms. If you're having one, just put one. If you're having two, put two. If you got more than two, just put three, and we don't have to know how many. But cravings for salt or sugary things, inability to lose weight, constantly hungry, skin tags, psoriasis, hugely linked to insulin resistance, irregular cycles, brain fog, anxiety, depression, feeling tired after meals, that itis that I gotta go take a nap because I had a whole bunch of carbohydrate foods, or, it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, and everybody's laid out after they had their full meal. Okay. High blood pressure, even polycystic ovarian syndrome, irregular menstrual cycles, facial hair, erectile dysfunction is a huge one too, things that people don't pay attention to, and low thyroid. So the reality is, if you have one of these, okay, you might have some mild insulin resistance. If you have more than two, if you have three, you definitely have insulin resistance. So you definitely have some problems with your metabolic health. So what is insulin resistance? So insulin, for a lot of us, when we saw this hormone, we were thinking about, oh, my grandmother used to have to take insulin. Because, it was the older people. It wasn't something we paid attention to. Or I had that cousin that had type 1 diabetes, and they had to take insulin. It's a hormone you can inject, right? But we're talking about the insulin that's in our body. And so insulin has a lot of jobs. We're going to deal with this function here, delivering energy into the cells, trying to get that glucose into the cell from the foods you eat. And then it can store that excess glucose as fat, but it regulates blood sugar levels is what it's trying to do. Now, insulin resistance, this is a condition where the cells of your body just don't respond well to insulin anymore. And that's all the cells. Now, what causes insulin resistance? Over time, having too much insulin in the bloodstream that comes from having too many carbohydrates, and I'm gonna get to that. And what causes too much insulin? Things we eat and drink. So, in 1992, this whole food pyramid came out telling people you got to eat 6 to 11 servings of carbohydrates a day, and you got to do all that snacking. That didn't help anybody. So what happened is you had a lot of people doing this constant carb consumption, right? So this dotted line, that's insulin. Whenever you eat, your pancreas has to release insulin. Depending on the macronutrients, it's going to release more or less. But it does that so that way you can utilize that energy, that glucose. Those carbohydrates break down the glucose. There's a certain amount of insulin that needs to be released for proteins, a certain amount of insulin that gets released for fat. But carbohydrates make you have to release a lot of insulin. So they really make your pancreas work, okay? So if you wake up and you have, the most important meal of the day, like I know some of you guys were told this lie, right? You wake up and you have your carby meal, your cereal, your oatmeal, or just your toast and some jelly. So that's a high carb meal. So that's going to boost your insulin. It's going to give you a spike, right? And then, because you had that high carb meal, you're about to be hungry in 2 more hours. And so you're going to eat something. Maybe you're going to try to be somewhat healthy and have a Nutri-Grain bar or something, or a granola bar. That's carbs too. Or you decided not to be healthy and you had a donut they had at the office. That boosts up your insulin again. Didn't even give it time to come all the way down. Then you have lunch. And so, they had some lunch brought in the office, some burgers, some sandwiches. That's a lot of bread. That's going to kick up insulin again. And then same thing. You see the same thing with the snack, same thing with the dinner, same thing with the dessert. And your insulin doesn't really get a chance to come back down. And so somebody who is insulin sensitive, it's averaged, it could take maybe 4 hours to come down. That's somebody who actually responds the correct way to insulin. But if you're already insulin resistant, that insulin level can stay up much higher. So, and if you're somebody who's been trying to fix your health, you're like, I thought I was doing good. I'm trying to eat more fiber. I'm trying to eat more veggies, right? Because eating more fiber helps with your digestive system, helps you get your sugars to come back down. And then if you lower your sugars, then you lower your insulin. So then you'd be less resistant, right? But our carbs have been stripped of their fiber. All the good stuff has been taken out. You know why it's been taken out? To make it more addictive, to make it more attractive. You got the colors in there. You got the chemicals in there. When I went to Italy and looked at the back of the box of I want to say it was a granola bar. It was like 5 ingredients on it. 5. Now, they were in Italian, but they still look like regular words. No, I looked them up. They were regular words. But when you compare that to the U.S. box, with about 20 different things in there and all these chemical names that I had to go back to chemistry class to figure out what it was, it just goes to show all the processed stuff we put in our foods, especially in the US. And we do that to make them addictive. So you can't eat just one. So I like to call this not just a modern food environment, but big food. And I say fooder because I know it's not a real word because this isn't real food anyway. So the modern day food environment with the packaged box barcode foods is killing us. It's killing us. And then even if I go into the agriculture side with the toxins in the ground and the antibiotics, I mean, it just becomes a big circle, right? And you start eating those things, right? Your sugar goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your cholesterol goes up. You go see your doctor, and your doctor, he knows that if you have this and this and this, the first thing you need is this drug. That's the algorithm. That's how it works. Yeah, sometimes they do like to teach you lifestyle changes. Sometimes they don't have the time to do it. They don't feel like they have the time. Or what I believe happens a lot is they've lost hope in believing that that's actually going to make a change. So they just don't do it as much. And you get your drugs first. And then you get your one drug, your two drugs, and you start having interactions between the drugs, you start having side effects between the drugs. And you start feeling bad. You're aging quickly, you have low energy, you have difficulty losing weight, and you're constantly hungry. You're sitting in the middle with all those symptoms because of the modern day food of the environment and big pharma. Now, I like to say that there's 5 things you can do immediately. And these are 5 things you can do on your own. That's if you decide, oh, I'm not even going to deal with any of these natural products you guys are talking about. One of those being a lower carbohydrate diet, yes. Trying to do low glycemic foods, yes. The University of Sydney, Australia has a whole website where you can type in the food and actually put in there what you're trying to eat, and then tell you if those are lower glycemic foods. That way, that should boost your insulin level, not as much, right? Avoid the processed foods. That's the food, not real food. Nobody needs to be eating that. I mean, I don't need to say that again, right? And then resistance training. That way, if you're building your muscle, you can bring the glucose down. It actually helps you actually bring the insulin down. Even just doing some squats or something after eating even has some good data on improving your glucose and insulin levels. And then increasing your fiber. But like we said, with the toxins and the chemicals, it makes it hard to get all the fiber you want to get from your foods. And the fact that it's being pulled out from foods, what do you do? So trying to have a supplement to add it back is helpful. And then time-based eating. Now, if you're somebody like me who's been dealing with your weight, heck, I've been dealing with it since I was the age of 5. So trust me when I tell you, I have done intermittent fasting by itself. I've done low carb eating by itself. I've done exercise, calories in, calories out by itself. And I've gotten some moderate results, but it was hard to stay consistent. It was hard to stay focused. And so I'm sure I'm not alone with that. So what do? I love how Dr. Ben Bikman even makes this even more simple. And when I say Dr. Ben Bikman, he's world renowned in metabolic health, world renowned, and talks a lot about us controlling our carbs and fasting frequently. So that's different than eating a whole bunch of carbs and eating too frequently, right? So that's a simple solution. And you can do this with using the products that we're talking about. And then how can GLP-1 help? So for those of you that don't know what that is a hormone that we already had. Actually, it's protein. We already had that protein. And it's something that helps us, one, delays our gastric emptying and activates satiety. So it goes to, it's a gut-brain axis, goes to our brain, tells us, hey, you're not really hungry, stop eating. And it slows down your emptying so that way you feel full longer, okay? This is a normal thing we already have. But what happened was with our sedentary lifestyle, eating that food of crap food, we actually shut down how this works. And so it just doesn't work properly like it should, not exercising, not managing your stress. All those things have hurt our GLP-1 production. So then Big Pharma, and they're figuring out how to make a diabetic drug, they realized, oh, okay, but this also helps with weight loss. But they made a synthetic version that attaches to the receptors and boosts the GLP-1. It kind of, synthetically, fakely, okay? And so the one that actually gets a lot of press and has been seen with all the stars looking all skinny, Ozempic and Wegovy. And so those are shots that people are taking, and it tries to give that GLP-1 function, but it does it so over the top that you're dealing with over the top side effects. You're dealing with gastric paralysis. You're dealing with blindness for some people. You're dealing with gut perforation. You're dealing with pulmonary embolism. These are things that can kind of take you out, with the exception of blindness. And I actually have a friend who told me her husband's a critical care physician, and he had people come in who'd been on Ozempic or Wegovy, and they had a gut perforation, or they had like the pulmonary embolism that could kill you. And after he got them calmed down, because critical care doctors, they're the ones that put the tubes down your mouth, they help you live, right? Emergently. And one of the things he tried to tell them was, stop doing those shots. But they were not trying to hear that. See, when the weight loss, the desire to finally get that weight down is so high that you're willing to be so desperate for anything, it's a scary place. But the great thing about these products is that it naturally boosts our GLP-1 with all that craziness. And then after 2 years, those shots end up not working as well, which sucks on top of it. And then if you stop taking it immediately, you gain the weight right on back because you never made the real changes. So that's when I love what we have, the natural solution. And with the chlorogenic acid, the ferulic acid, the theobromine, the saponins, all that's in the tea that we drink 2 times a day. And it boosts your GLP-1 function. The theobromine helps with the mood, which is great, We have plenty of people that have been able to get off their depression, anti-anxiety medications. Huge, huge, right? The short chain fatty acids, that's giving us our fiber back. The soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, that's what we're missing because we can't get it from those foods. So having something that naturally does what we needed to do to help us get down those insulin levels, that we can all go into more of a fat burning phase to help with that weight loss, that's a nice side effect. And decrease the sugars, the cholesterol, the blood pressure. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, Jim. That's what I got.
I love listening to you. And as you were going there, just my little research driven mind, I was like, you know what? You just mentioned gastroparesis. And I wanted to show something here because, I think most people would say, yeah, you know what? I'm willing to take the risk. It's not that common, right? This one right here, this was a study. It was done. It's a cross-sectional analysis. It was just published about a year ago. And it found that 5.1% of the people who were on those medications got gastroparesis. And so that basically equates to 1 in 20. 1 in 20 people. And then you also mentioned the thyroid cancer. This one right here found a 58% increased risk of thyroid cancer and a 78% increased risk of medullary thyroid cancer. Those are real numbers. Those are real numbers. And we've got an opportunity. So, you know what I forgot to do, Tiff, was I was going to do my little demonstration here. And it's not too late.
Oh,
So I'm going to do it.
no,
So what I'm going to
it's
do,
not too
guys,
late.
is I've got a bottle of your store-bought stuff, right? The Metamucil, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but 16 grams of sugar added to it. So it says the instructions are to add 1 or 2 rounded tablespoons to 8 ounces of water. So I'm going to ask you guys, because I don't want this to be rigged. You guys tell me 1 or 2. Just type a 1 or a 2 in the comment section. And I'm going to add 1 or 2 tablespoons, depending on what your answers are. And it's majority rules here. 2. Everybody always says 2. I didn't even need to ask the poll. It's always 2. Okay, and are we going to call, is that rounded? Is that fair to call rounded? I'm going with that. That's rounded. 2 of those is a lot. 2 of those. Okay. Let's put this aside. The first time I ever saw this demonstration, it was Trent Tueller that did it in Tucson, Arizona. It's been a few years ago. I'm just going to mix it up. And by the way, that looks awful. It looks awful. And then, of course, balance. And I'm going to mix up a packet of our mixed berry balance. And what I'll do is I'll just leave these set aside. They're going to sit for about 10 or 15 minutes. And we'll come back and we'll pour them out. Now, balance gets mixed in 300 milliliters of water. You'll get a little bottle when you order your kit. It looks like this, and it's got a little spot on it for balance. You just fill it up to that, but that's actually 300 milliliters. And so I'm going to go ahead and mix that up the same. There we go. And I'll just set those aside for a little while. Okay. I wanted to dive into some of the science a little bit, because that's really, I think, where I cut my teeth into social media and people started listening to me was through the science. I like to really kind of put the research out there for people to do their own research. We've now got the medical community saying this stuff works, but I want to go to the science community. So just a couple of research papers that I think are interesting is, don't make fun of all the windows that I have open. Oh, this one right here. Let's talk about this one right here. Fiber and multivitamin combination therapy. It's a beneficial influence on low-density lipoprotein and homeocysteine. This was done, you'll notice, in September of 2002. So about 22 and change years ago. If you wanted, here it is right here on metabolism. That's where it was published. This was peer-reviewed, published, and it's been cited more than 20 times. This particular research paper was a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized clinical trial. That's a big deal. Now, this is the actual text of it, and you will notice that it was done at the Cleveland Clinic, and it's always important to point out that it was the Cleveland Clinic. And again, to my medical community that's listening right now, would you just put a yes or no in the comment section? Would you consider the Cleveland Clinic to be the top heart hospital in the United States? If it's a yes, type yes. If it's no, type no. I'm curious what our medical community that's listening in right now says about that statement. I don't like giving opinions, so when I do ask for opinion, I'm going to ask for all of the medical professionals to weigh in. So this one here was done at the preventative cardiology section of the Cleveland Clinic. Again, it was published in 2002, and they looked at BIOS Life 2, which, for those that are curious, it's BIOS Life 2 in other countries. This product is available in 63 different countries globally. It's a big deal. And they looked at LDL cholesterol, total cholesterol, HDL, triglycerides. They looked at everything, and they saw improvements in everything. And so much so, they concluded such a product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially decrease the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescription drugs. Those are statins, no, Doc?
Yep.
What they are. So the top heart hospital concluded that such a product could potentially decrease the need and or dose for statins. That's a pretty powerful statement. Now, Dr. Tiffany, you mentioned the glycemic index. I want to go here real quick. This is the Mayo Clinic. And I like this little write-up. It talks about what the glycemic index is. In this paragraph right here, I'll be quick. The glycemic index ranks food on a scale from 0 to 100. The low end of the scale has foods that have little effect on blood sugar levels. The high end of the scale has foods with a big effect on blood sugar levels. And if you scroll down just a little bit, they give examples of what foods that are low are. Green vegetables, most fruits, raw carrots, kidney beans, chickpeas, and lentils. Foods that are high: white rice, white bread, and potatoes. And so I would ask the audience that's listening right now, would you say that we generally eat foods that are low or high in the glycemic index? And I bet if we were to really look at our diets and maybe look in from the outside looking in, the standard American diet is probably just really high glycemic index foods. We're spiking our blood sugar all day long, causing what Dr. Tiffany just showed. Now, the glycemic index is maintained. The International Glycemic Index database as well as website are maintained by the University of Sydney, Australia. If you go to glycemicindex.com, it will bring you right here. And if you hit the About page, I always like this, it will talk about her. Now, she is Professor Jenny Brown Miller, and interestingly enough, it talks about Dr. Jenny Brown Miller before it talks about what is the glycemic index at the glycemicindex.com. So Professor Jenny Brown Miller is an internationally recognized authority on carbohydrates and the glycemic index with over 250 scientific publications. Dr. Jenny Brown Miller studied the effects of a fiber-rich nutritional supplement, BIOS Life Slim, on the glycemic and insulin index of 3 common starchy foods: white bread, white rice, and mashed potato. The same thing that Mayo Clinic article was talking about for high. She looked at the effects of BIOS Life Balance on those foods. And in each case, it lowered the glycemic index from high to medium. It also lowered, in this study, the insulin index for all 3 test foods, effectively reducing the amount of insulin that was secreted. That is key. That's how we start to see things work. Now, she studied it a second time. And this, guys, I want you to know, this was done in July of 2011. This has been out for a while. BIOS Life was developed in 1989. It's
Mhm.
not new. And I would ask you, why haven't you heard of it before? And we all know the reason. This was done, and in this case, they gave test patients white bread, which is a 100 on the glycemic index. If you're curious, sucrose, table sugar, is a 65. White bread has a higher glycemic index than sugar. They gave test patients either 1 or 2 servings of BioSlife. With 1 serving, they found a 20% reduction in blood glucose levels. With 2 servings, it was a 28%. Just do a quick little Google search and ask what metformin lowers your blood glucose by. I'm curious what you guys see. This study, the same study, they found a 13 to 27% reduction in blood insulin. So if what Dr. Tiffany was ultimately saying was we got to get our insulin levels lower to start resensitizing the cells to the insulin, this is why it works. Now, there was another study that was published a little over a year ago, October of 2023. This one right here. Yerba mate supplement exerts beneficial tissue-specific effects on mitochondrial efficiency and redox status in healthy adult mice. This was done by Dr. Ben Bikman, and I'm going to talk about Ben Bikman here in just a moment. But Dr. Ben Bikman did this, and if we just scroll down to the materials and methods, you will see they used Unicity's Unimate, the tea. Now, who is Dr. Ben Bikman? Dr. Ben Bikman is a professor of cell biology and physiology at Brigham Young University. Moreover, he's in charge of the laboratory of obesity and metabolism there. A lot of people would have a lot of interest in what he does for a living. He pays particular emphasis on the etiology of insulin resistance. This guy is one of the world's leading metabolic scientists, especially when we're talking about insulin resistance. That's what he does. This is exactly what Dr. Ben Bikman does. And as of 2024, Dr. Ben Bikman is the director of the scientific advisory board for Unicity. Unicity is putting out a science-based product. It's a science-based company putting out a food-based product. This stuff just simply works. We have the clinical validation by places like the Cleveland Clinic, the scientific validation by people like Dr. Ben Bikman, and then you got the social validation by people like Deb Saunders and so many other people. And in fact, I want to ask a real quick question to the audience, and I'm going to try and word it the way that Trent Tueller words it. I'm never going to be as good as Trent, but without exaggerating, I don't want anybody to exaggerate. If you are on the system, I would like you to just put down a quick little blurb, a sentence or two about what the system has done for you. Where were you at when you started? Where are you at now? And if you're sitting in here being a skeptic, I totally get it. You should be. There's too much snake oil in the market. This company offers you a 90-day money-back guarantee, and it's all backed by science. You know who doesn't think it's a scam? Dr. Ben Bikman. Okay, I want to read some of these. I'm sure they're popping up right now. Let's see. Jimmy Elizondo reversed non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and type 2 diabetes, blood pressure's down, sleep apnea, depression, erectile dysfunction gone, lost 88 pounds off 8 meds, and all without a thyroid. So Jimmy has hypothyroidism. Oh, now where did everybody go? It just left. Dang it. Boy, there's got to be a better way for this. There we go. Michael Martin, 7 months down, 7 months in, down 106 pounds. Reversed type 2, went from 25 pills per day down to 4. Mike Butcher lost 30 pounds, lowered triglycerides by 140 points, and increased HDL by 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany, down 20 pounds, way more energy, mental clarity, skin tags are gone. You know, my skin tags are gone as well. Whitney Zayas, 68 pounds down, no more chronic inflammation, high cholesterol, or sleep apnea. Peggy says, lost 20 pounds, high energy, haven't been sick since I started on the system. I got to think that's the multivitamin, doctor. So if you're curious, Balance is a blend of both 7 different types of fiber and a multivitamin. And the multivitamin, it's a full B complex and chromium. And I got to think that's what's causing that, Doc. And just, I guess, getting your metabolic health and
Well, I mean, decreasing the insulin resistance, you're going to decrease that chronic inflammation. And then you're going to you also have the whole fasting part of that to where you start to heal, especially when you get past that 16 hours, that autophagy. So, yeah, there's lots of reasons why we don't get sick as much.
Monty Thompson. Today is day number 7, and I'm down 11 pounds and feel great. Monty, you haven't even begun to feel. You're just getting started. I'm excited to see what Monty says in 2 weeks or a month or 6 months down the road. Alfredo, no more headaches, lost 34 pounds. How are you, Alfredo? Becky Bush, I used to be on 16 meds. No more. That's a pretty simple little one line. I used to be on 16 meds, no more.
That's all you have to say.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. She doesn't really elaborate there. Perfect lipid panel after 30 days and lost 20 pounds to boot. Guys, I'd encourage everybody to read through those. I think I could spend the next 20 minutes reading through those. These are pretty amazing. So the way that this works is Unicity operates off of a referral-based system. It's a membership program, okay? And it's a free membership. You don't have to pay for the membership like Costco or something like that. You just have to be referred by another member to get the member pricing. So whoever invited you to this meeting, if you've been invited to this meeting, just get with that person and they will tell you how to order. They'll give you their referral code. More than that, if you're starting to have these amazing results, invite somebody to these meetings and let's help your friends and family get healthy just the same. And you'll get a discount, by the way, for doing so. $10 every time they purchase, you'll get a $10 product credit. So you want to start lowering the price of that subscription every month. That's a great way to do it. Okay. Are we ready to see what happens to fiber?
Yes, yes.
Or we're going to wait a little long? Let's wait a little longer. Let's go another 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So I think I'm going to bring Deb back in. Add pin.
What about
is? And I figure we'll kind of transition to some questions, a Q&A. Is there anybody that has any questions? This is a great opportunity to ask a doctor, and I will kind of preface this with she's not your doctor. She's here on her time, and she's not going to get too specific because, well, her license could be at risk. So, but I love the fact that she's here. So ask away. If she can answer it, she can answer it. If she can't, she can't. Okay. And then obviously we've got Deb here as well. If you want to know Deb's experience, anything like that. What is required for weight loss, longer fasting? Bethany asks, what is required for weight loss, longer fasting? Dr. Tiff, you want to take that or do you want me to?
Well, we didn't go over how you use the system too, but because that would kind of hit some of that.
I'm nervous. Golly.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
I mean, yes.
Let me dive into this. Okay. Golly, it's like the first time I've ever done a live stream. There are 2 products. I've already touched on the science behind Unimate and the science behind Balance. Unimate, there are 3 different flavors. There's apple spice. It's a limited time flavor. There is lemon, and there is lemon ginger. I love all 3 of them. If you're not a big fan of spice, probably stay away from the lemon ginger. If you like that Christmas in a cup, apple spice is the one to go. The way that this works is you're going to get 2 different Unimates per day with your kit. And I'm trying to navigate here. There are some people outside of the United States. I want to be careful with this, okay? In North America, you're going to get 2 Unimates with your kit, with your Feel Great kit. And the way that I do it, I wake up first thing in the morning and I just fill up a Yeti tumbler. Now you're going to get your mug or your little cup, and it's got the Unimate line on the back of it. You could certainly use this bottle. It's pretty strong when I drink it there, and it's cold. And I found that I kind of chug things that are cold, and you don't want to chug it. You want to kind of sip it. So I've got a Yeti tumbler. I will fill this up with kettle. I've got a coffee kettle hot water maker thing here. Put one of my packets in and give that a little stir, and it will take me 2 to 3 hours to sip this. Now, when it's done, I just kind of go right into my second Unimate. That right there is the morning portion of it. And then right before your heaviest meal of the day, you're going to drink a balance. There's two different flavors of balance. There's orange and there's mixed berry. Fill the bottle up to that line, give it some real quick shakes, and chug this like you're in college at a frat party. Get it down the hatch really quick and then enjoy your meal. Now, we pair those two products with intermittent fasting. 16 and 8, minimum of 16 and 8, time-based eating. So for me personally, at 8 p.m., I'm done eating for the night. I don't eat again until noon the following day. I don't know if that's how you do it, Dr. Tiff or Deb, but that is my schedule. Now, if you're thinking, man, I don't think I can go that long without food. Well, that's part of the reason that we're so sick is because we're always eating all the time. But luckily, Unimate, there's something inside of Unimate called chlorogenic acid. And chlorogenic acid is a natural appetite suppressant. You will find your appetite is just shrunk. You're not hungry. So you kind of think of using Unimate as your breakfast. It kind of drink your tea for breakfast. Now, I mentioned outside of the United States. Outside of the United States, it would be the opposite. You'd have one Unimate and two Balance, or outside of North America, I guess, you'd have one Unimate and two Balance. And it's very similar. You just wake up and drink your Unimate, and then before each meal, you drink a Balance. If you would like, if you are somebody who has a very high A1C or you've got really high cholesterol or something like that, there is an option to buy an extra box of Balance with your subscription. It's not part of the Feel Great kit. You can just have it delivered with it. I do that personally. I love having balance with every single meal. I think it's great for my cholesterol, and I just know what it's done to my A1C. So that's how I do it. There. First time doing a live stream. I'm so sorry, guys.
No biggie.
Okay. Okay, so where were we at? Let's see. So the question was helping with weight loss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the biggest issue with insulin resistance is that because you have so much insulin floating around and your cells aren't getting that glucose in the cells, now insulin is going to put that into the fat cells. And so that's what you're getting. You're getting your fat cells kind of bulked up. And then the bigger they get, the more inflamed they get. So you get inflammation on top of that. So if we decrease the insulin, and if we can decrease the glucose you're taking in so your body doesn't have to release insulin, then yeah, you're going to end up going into fat burning as opposed to fat storing. Now, insulin, now when we say with weight loss, we don't push this as saying that weight loss, this is the weight loss, product. It's a great side effect because we're correcting the root issue, is the point. So it's not going to happen overnight, is why I say it that way. That's why there's a 90-day money back guarantee.
I wanted to kind of build on that too. I've reversed type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension. I guess hypercholesterolemia would be the right term, right? Hypertension. I don't have the migraine headaches anymore. I don't have acid reflux anymore. I've dropped 2 pant sizes and 2 shirt sizes. And I think over the course of the last 2 years, I've dropped about 10 pounds. And so for some people, I'm not obese anymore. I think I'm a pretty good fit now, but some people, Deb, lost 80 pounds. Your body will find its right weight. I think it's kind of important that we start realizing what actually matters because obesity is not a top 10 cause of death. Obesity is not a top 10 cause of death. Insulin resistance is tied to 7 of the top 10 causes of death. Let's get our minds off of the scale, start focusing on your metabolic health. Your body will find its right place, but time and consistency. Be consistent with the product, and you'll start to see that scale move if your body wants it to move, but you definitely will see your body shape change. I hope that answers that. Boy, Dr. KC asked, what about primary lipolymphedema?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is
There's
that?
a lot of inflammation with that.
Okay.
I mean, you're dealing with a very specific issue, but the reality is anything that has inflammation can be improved with this system. This decreases inflammation. If we decrease the insulin, because insulin actually worsens inflammation, it causes a low-grade chronic inflammation. So yes, it can help with that. So kind of depends on the cause. Are we talking about everywhere? That's a very specific question. And so that is something to either one, message me or try to get a consultation with Lindsay Venn, which is our great metabolic health professional that does consultations about that. But anything involving inflammation is going to improve with using the system.
Slim Body Fitness. I'm a personal trainer. I didn't need to lose weight. I just wanted to try the system before I started giving it to clients. I lost 7 pounds in 2 weeks. My mental clarity is off the chart. That's amazing. Susan Van Dries says, does the COVID shot make a difference? I think it's a pretty wide open question there. I'm not sure. Maybe try and get a little bit more specific with that question, Susan. Gerald, my cousin has severe hammer toes and extreme loss of circulation, possibly facing amputation of one or more toes. Can your system reverse this? If so, how does it work?
So, that could be a structural issue when we're talking about hammer toes. If we're talking about the arteries or the veins being occluded or smashed because of the structure of the toes, that's a little different. So again, that's a more personalized question. Probably needs to maybe go to, maybe Lindsay Venn. But if the toes are so much so that they're smashing on each other and smashing on the vasculature, yeah, that's not the issue here. That's a structural problem as opposed to inflammation or messing up the arterial walls that insulin resistance can cause, or clumping with triglycerides. A little different.
Bree says, my mother is type 2. She says no caffeine at all. How harmful could the caffeine be in the Feel Great protocol? How can I get her over this concern? So there is some caffeine in the Unamate. It's one of the few things they actually don't measure for. I'm told it's about 80 to 100 milligrams per packet, which is about the equivalent of 1 cup of coffee. I will point out, Unamate is very high in something called theobromine, and theobromine reacts very funny with caffeine. As in, I'm drinking Unamate right now. I would never drink regular cup of coffee or a soda at 7:53 at night. I wouldn't be able to sleep all night long. I'll drink this all night long. The other thing is people who drink it don't ever seem to get the jitters. That just doesn't happen as well. And that's the theobromine. Now, as far as if it's a doctor's order saying don't touch caffeine, she should definitely consult her doctor first. And that does bring up an interesting point that both of these products are in the physician's desk reference, the PDR, pdr.net. A lot of companies would love to put their products in the PDR. Most companies are not. Unicity has 19 different products in the PDR. So your doctor can go and actually open up the PDR or go to pdr.net and look up the contraindications and the side effects. And you know what? They're not going to find any because they don't exist. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Tiff, you've already answered that one. 1 month down, 6 pants sizes, 36 pounds, reverse type 2, sleep best. That's amazing. Ross Vickery and
That's awesome.
Has your product been helpful against Parkinson's? You want to touch that one, Dr. Tiff? And I can kind of go for that.
Do you know anybody who's had Parkinson's? I don't know any anecdotal.
I
know the science why it should. I mean, you're incorporating, there's 3 phases here. You had the 2 products and then you had the intermittent fasting. I mean, autophagy alone or fasting period actually does help. Once you kick up those ketones when you get in a fasted state, your neurons like those ketones. So you can actually decrease some of that plaque formation. I have not seen an article specifically for Parkinson's, nor do I know a person who's been on it to say that's improved. But when we're decreasing the inflammation with the yerba mate and even the fiber, we know that it definitely affects dementia and type 3 diabetes. Have you seen anything specific for Parkinson's?
I have seen, I did a post a while back where there's a strong correlation between insulin resistance and Parkinson's. But as far as an actual, like, have I seen somebody actually seen a benefit? I have not. And that doesn't mean that they don't exist. That just means that I've personally not seen that person just yet. Jen asks, specifically for you, Dr. Tiff, is there a benefit to having more than 1 balance per day? Is there any concern about having more than 2 Unamates per day?
Oh, man. Of course, there's not any problems with doing more than 1 balance. I mean, I am the one who loves the veggies. The problem is our veggies are all screwed up. Most veggies you can eat. So having more of that fiber is definitely helpful. I easily do 2 balances a day. And if you catch me on a bad day, on the holidays or something, I might throw another one in there. Um, I'm a believer that you can't eat too many veggies until your gut tells you so. Now, if your gut starts backing up on you and starts acting like, it's a problem, then that may be too much for you. But as far as more than 2 Unimate, I usually do 2 Unimate. And sometimes I'll do 3, depending on how long I'm working. It's about how much you can tolerate because there is that natural caffeine in there. As long as that's not affecting you adversely, I have not had any problems with doing that. We don't have a limit that I know of on the boxes. I have not seen that anywhere, saying what the limits are for those.
All right. We are ready for our little demonstration here. Remember this?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is our Metamucil. It's been sitting here for what, about 25 minutes, 25 minutes-ish. And I've got a little wine glass. And we're just going to pour it. And I've got my microphone right next to it. So hopefully you can hear and make sure that that microphone is what's on. Oh, no. Can you guys hear me now? Microphone? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Microphone's right next to it. And here we go. Well, that's our Metamucil. And then balance. Balance has been sitting there for the same amount of time. There you go. There was that plop. Everybody always loves the plop. So, ick, icky. Okay. Let me see. I want to make sure that I'm not missing any questions. Sludge. Yeah. The first time I ever saw that it was in February of 23. It was Trent Tuller that did that right there. Okay, and we're getting a lot of people, by the way. We're getting a lot of people. Becky Bush says she drinks 3 to 4 Unimates per day. I think I'm on number 4 myself. Somebody's already answered leaky gut. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Did anybody have any questions for, who developed the product? Jen A asks, who developed the product? Rexall Pharmacy. Balance. They developed Balance anyway. They developed it as BioSlife in the late 80s. It went to market in 1990. And it's been an amazing product ever since. So, great question. Casey says, thank you. Ladies, thank you very much. Deb, thanks for coming in and giving yours. Dr. Tiff. Before I go, Deb, I want to ask you, there's a lot of people who are sitting here in the audience who are probably incredibly skeptical, right? Because we should be. There's too many people out there taking advantage of other people, and it seems too good to be true. What would you say to that person who's listening right now?
We're all looking for quick fixes, but this, honestly, consistency is key. You have to realize that the symptoms that your body has been dealing with, they've been developing for months, even years. Please, please give your body grace and let it actually start to relax and detox. This is the best thing for you through your whole metabolic health journey. You will thank yourself. I thank myself every day that I gave myself that chance.
Yep.
That
That is
Dr.
awesome.
Tiff, what would you say? What would you say?
Well, I did this product. I was able to get off of my blood pressure medicine. I was able to lose inches. I probably lost about a total of 10 pounds since doing the product, period. Got rid of my hot flashes. But what was awesome was helping my brother get off of his insulin, helping my mother reverse her type 2 diabetes, helping my uncles, having my family members. And so I had a father who died 20 years ago because he had strokes after stroke after stroke after stroke and didn't have a way to fix it, didn't have anything natural he could take and refused to take medications. So that's why you hear my urgency. That's how you hear the speed in my voice. This is something that means everything to me. So if you are sitting there struggling and trying to figure out if you're going to take your medications or do nothing, absolutely give this natural product a try. It's a 90-day money-back guarantee. And if you know anybody struggling and you know they need some help, talk to them about this.
It's hard for me to beat that. I would say, if you've been invited to this call and you're not on the product, somebody cares about you and they think that this could benefit you. And they're suggesting you give it a shot. And whoever it is that sent you here, it's probably not somebody who wanted to harm you. And maybe you listen to Dr. Tiff and listen to Deb and maybe even the court jester. The product comes with a 90-day money back guarantee. I would say that you've got nothing to lose, but everything to gain. Give it 90 days. And as my good friend Trent would say, go into it with a 90-day mindset of, I'm going to try hard. I'm going to really try hard. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. If that is you, if you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, then don't be anymore. If you have type 2 diabetes, you don't have to have type 2 diabetes anymore. If you are broken, you don't have to stay broken. Get with the person who sent you here. Thank you guys very much for listening to us, mostly for putting up with me. And Trent will have the keys back for the next one. You guys have a wonderful night.
Yes, good night. Thanks.